My students rated this Ball in a Box project as one of their favourites this year. What does that mean? It means it was fun. They found it to be a difficult but achievable challenge. It motivated them to think for themselves. It demanded their creative problem solving. And when time ran out, they were proud of what they did. So if you're looking for an art and design activity that is challenging but doable, and that asks you to think outside the square and experiment to solve a problem against the clock, then this video is for you. To help you get ready, I will introduce and explain the challenge just as I would do in my classroom. Let's get started. Materials and tools. You will need copy paper, scissors, a ruler, glue sticks or transparent tape, or stapler and staples. Any of these will be sufficient. Marker pens or colour pencils. One ball, approximately 15 centimetres or 6 inches in diameter. One ball per team. I used these styrofoam balls because a colleague gave me a whole bunch that were left over from her festive crafts projects. A weight. Now I recommend about 1.6 kilograms or 3.75 pounds, and one sheet of card, A4 or letter size, for resting your weight on. The goal, basic level, design and make a paper container for one ball. Here are the rules. You may work on your own or in groups of 2 or 3 people. There is no limit to the amount of paper you use, but the less paper you use to get a result, the better from a design point of view. Plus, there is less waste. For example, one of my 10-year-old students succeeded with the advanced challenge using 7 sheets of A4 copy paper. And in another class, a team of students with a very different design solution also had success in the advanced challenge using only 3 sheets of A4 paper. Use your glue, tape, staples sparingly. Less is more here, as the goal is to figure out how to make the paper do 95% of the work. Are you surprised if I tell you that it is possible to succeed without using any glue or tape or staples? It's true. The container must open and close easily. Therefore, do not tape, glue, or staple to close the container's lid or opening. Also, do not alter or squash or damage the ball. The ball must not be taped or glued into the container. The container you make must be stackable, which means that your container must be able to be stable enough to sit on top of another container or support another container. The face of the container must be decorated in the style of an artist, designer, or architect you have recently studied. When you have finished, the container will be tested with the ball inside while the container is resting unaided on a table or desk. In other words, you are not supposed to hold it together with your hands to make it work. Now, when you have all your materials and tools ready, you have 1 hour to complete the challenge, ready for testing. So what about the advanced level that I mentioned? To achieve success in the advanced level, you must succeed with all the basic level requirements, plus 1 additional. That is, the container with the ball inside it must be able to support a weight. Now I recommend a 1.6 kilogram or 3.75 pounds weight, which is about the weight of 4 standard cans of beans. With my students, I used wooden blocks from a Jenga game that I have in the classroom. I have 4 pro tips for you. And these pro tips don't tell you what to do, but give you hints about how to think about your design. First of all, don't be distracted by the paper size. Focus on the ball. In my lessons, we often use A4 sized copy paper for brainstorming, quick sketching, and design mock-ups and preliminary prototypes. So I remind the students that just because the paper is A4 size does not mean their design dimensions have to be A4 size. Therefore, my pro tip is think about what size or dimensions your design solution needs to be to succeed, regardless of what size your sheets of paper are. My second pro tip is based on something my students already knew through previous challenges they had completed. So I'm adding it here to the tips to be fair. Let's start with a question. Do you know how to simply transform one sheet of paper with your hands alone into a strong, self-supporting form that can support a weight? What do you already know, or what do you imagine? Perhaps crumpling the paper into a ball? No. Through experience, my students know the best answer is roll a sheet of paper tightly into a tube and stand it on its end. My third tip. This pro tip is for the advanced level challenge. Again, a question to get you thinking. Is the ball the problem, or is it part of the solution? Now, half my students saw the ball as the problem, and the other half saw it as the solution. Who do you think was right? If you think the ball can be used to help you solve the problem, you are correct. Finally, my fourth pro tip is for those of you doing this in the classroom. Think about this. Is my challenge a competition? No, it's a challenge, meaning it is quite tricky, and you will need patience, brain power, a willingness to experiment, and some ambition. But in my classes, the ideal result is for every team to successfully achieve the goal and understand how they got there. Therefore, I would ask your opinion. Can groups cooperate with each other and share ideas during the challenge? Can one team help another team? Yes. My advice is be prepared to share. Finally, some advice. From a design process perspective, this challenge asks you to make a first prototype. A design prototype is a bit like a 3D sketch. It's your first tryout. In a full design process, you might make and test 3 or 4 prototypes before you settle on the perfect exhibition quality design. Here, you are not going that far. So even though I know you will be thoughtful and careful, there is a good chance that your first prototype will be a bit rough, a bit hurried, and maybe it won't even completely succeed. It might succeed. It might be great, either through skill or luck, or a bit of both. Whether it slays or sucks, we must be ready to learn from both the good and the not so good. In the classroom, my design challenges always conclude with a round of testing everyone's designs, and then a discussion session where we talk about what worked well and what didn't, and most importantly, why. Each team gets to reflect on and discuss what they might do differently and what they learned. Therefore, although I've talked about successfully completing the challenge, I want to be clear that an unsuccessful design is not a fail. In my classroom, when doing these quick, low-tech design challenges, my students know that the only real failure is failing to try. They also know that sometimes the learning is greater when they have an unsuccessful result because they must think harder than the other teams about how they could do it differently next time. I hope these tips help you. Are you ready to try? How much time do you have? Once you have gathered all your materials and tools on your table, set your timer for 60 minutes and go. Good luck. And remember, a tricky and frustrating challenge is not an impossible challenge. You've got this.